Hi guys, my name's Seb Tudor, I'm the man on the Silver Mountain, and welcome back. Today I wanted to talk about the fear of intimacy, and this is because I have a fair number of friends that have this kind of fear of closeness in relationships, or at least it leads them to end relationships prematurely in a lot of instances, for seemingly no reason whatsoever, or it makes them like actively pursue things that will be detrimental not just to themselves but also kind of more generally. And as a result, there's an interesting kind of statistic here, and that is that apparently in Western cultures, it's normal for about 20% of people to be actively observed as avoidant in regards to intimacy and closeness in relationships. And, so whilst it might be normal, it's not great. It doesn't feel good to the person that you're in a relationship with. It doesn't necessarily feel good to the people around you witnessing it, and it probably doesn't feel good to you either because, there's maybe an expectation or the people are getting upset with you or whatever else. But there are two main kind of suggested reasons as to why people end up like this. One of them is attached to kind of child psychology, and the other one is kind of coping mechanisms. So let's just quickly summarize both of the potential causes. One of them is like attachment theory based almost, whereby like a child who's developing has kind of cries for help ignored, or who can't necessarily express themselves easily to their parents in a way that their parents would understand, and therefore is avoided or dismissed in those more emotive situations. Then when it actually comes to being emotive and being close to another person, then they haven't had a role model, they have never really received it themselves particularly well, and as a result, there's that fear of it because it's the unknown, and most people fear the unknown quite significantly. The other kind of general, like, or most frequently attributed cause tends to be kind of young adulthood, rejection, or being hurt by someone in some way. May very well then drag you kind of, or push you further away from everyone else. Yeah, it's that one incident that was either your first time, and so as a result it was a shock to the system, or it was just very traumatic, or there was a lot involved, and as a result it kind of forced you to find distance to be safe. Yeah, and as a result you moved away from that situation, you moved away from that person, you found your safe environment that you could build your little fort to hide in, and as a result, like, anyone who wants to be intimate with you or close to you then has to fight their way through the walls that you have built up around you first. Now, there are an awful lot of people that I've come into contact with who actually realise that they're the avoidant person, or the person that's kind of maintained distance or kind of been uncomfortable with it. And it still comes up every now and again to one extent or another, but there are a few things that you can kind of do to try and help yourself break out of this. The first one would probably be kind of watching people's emotions, because one of the things that you've probably not come into contact with if you're the more distant person is, if you've not had your emotions listened to and you've not had the feedback, then there's a good chance that understanding like other people's emotions and the cues that come with them might have been something that also has been missed. So again, like, checking in with someone about how they're feeling relative to how you've perceived them to be feeling might be useful, just to kind of make yourself more aware of some of the cues that maybe you've been missing when a partner or someone else who's just wanted to be close to you has kind of bumped up against those walls that you've put around yourself and not been able to find a way in. And then one of the next things is so that's maybe more for positive emotions, because you're able to actually ask or kind of compare as to whether or not your assumption was accurate. But also, one of these things that drives people away, that causes this fear of intimacy, tends to be negative emotions. And it's removing yourself from negative emotions and running away as fast as you can and hiding from them because it's safe away from them. And so, you know, next time you're confronted with negative emotions, don't run away. Stand your ground. Yeah? Um, and, you know, you may very want to counterattack or shut down or run away or whatever, but just don't do this. You know, show the other person that you're listening. Yeah, I've talked about active listening skills before, where actively listening to the person, showing that you're kind of taking note of what they're saying, reflecting stuff back, kind of reiterating their own words to them with a twist to show that you've listened to it. And whatever, even if you do that, you know, don't be tempted to demonstrate that you're following what they're saying and understanding, and then saying, but, and then coming back with your own bit. You know, just understand. Be more passive. Yeah. Don't running away is an active thing. Hiding is an active thing. Attacking back is an active thing. Just don't. Take it on board. Listen. Don't let yourself do anything else until it's done, and then maybe take a time out and then come back and actually discuss it with a cooler head. Yeah. The next thing would be that these people don't tend to really touch in on emotions. People who are avoidant, one of the reasons is that the emotions become really exterior and they become really kind of pronounced, and rational approaches can be really difficult. And so learn to label and communicate your emotions. Yeah, it can be difficult, but like, don't say what you're thinking necessarily all the time. You know, don't rationalize that you're doing fine when you might not be. You know, say what you're feeling more. So if you're doing fine, but you're confused and a little anxious by what you're doing, then say so. I feel like a little confused about the stuff that you said, and it makes me kind of anxious because I don't know what's expected of me, and I want to do it. I want to be okay. Yeah. So just look at more of what you're feeling rather than what you're thinking. And I'm very much more a thinker than a feeler myself. But at the same time, if I need to communicate my emotions, I can do. And if it's difficult for me, then I can say that it's difficult for me and I need more time to work it out. Yeah? That if you need to buy yourself time to process what's going on in your head a little bit more, especially when it's a really confusing situation or there are lots of things coming in and going on, you know, just especially if someone is wanting to get close to you, open up, let them know that, you know, you're in that space where you're feeling a little anxious, a little confused, a little upset, and all of these different things, and you need some time to work it out. You need some time to work out exactly what's going on. You know, and then, like, the final thing that I would say is don't put like work in front of relationships. Yeah, sooner or later, like, you're going to run into the work-life balance kind of thing. And when this happens, you don't necessarily want to find yourself stepping so far away from the other people around you that you end up alone. Because then if something goes wrong and you need them, they won't be there. And also because, you know, if you're already with someone, if you're in a relationship with someone, if you're developing that relationship, then there should be a kind of concerted effort towards achieving goals, and they can't do that if you purely prioritize something else above them. Yeah, if you prioritize them and interacting with them, and that you can be respected and loved and work within it, and all of the work within the framework that you've laid out with that person, and so on and so forth, and you can still achieve all of your goals without having to just purely be an overachiever and run away from that person that's there wanting to work with you, then you will do better in the long run. You don't have to instantly sprint for the finish because you're running a marathon. Yeah? you will end up burned out, you will end up alone, you will end up in trouble. Take your time, run with the person that you've decided to run with. And now there are a couple of other things that I just want to talk about here, especially for the people who may very well end up in relationships with these avoidant people, or people that may very well kind of step away from you, be afraid of intimacy and stuff like that, because it can be just as hard on you as it is on them. And like the first thing that I would say is that avoidant people tend to shut down, or they start dismissing, or they tend to just kind of brush stuff off and they will move away. You know, it's something that you shouldn't take personally, because there's a lot more to it. Yeah, as I've already discussed in this video, if they're shutting down, if they're dismissing things because for whatever reason, that doesn't necessarily mean that they don't still want to be with you. It's just the fact that they have hit their roadblock, they have hit their wall, and they're having trouble getting over it or getting through it or whatever. And so when they start doing that, and they clamp down on their emotions as a result, you need to maybe bear with them a little more, try not to take it personally, and maybe give them some space, just so that they can come back out again. You know, this is all built around fear and the unknown and nervousness. And so, you know, if you're the perceived unknown, and these emotions are the perceived unknown, and they've curled up in a ball, then, you know, you getting closer isn't going to encourage them to open up again. And then kind of, you know, this person will probably deny it, but they're scared of the negative emotions. That's what they're doing. They're running away, they're shutting down, they're attacking back. And it becomes purely kind of a mental, kind of intellectual conversation, because they're afraid of the emotions, because they're afraid of connecting with those things, or maybe because they don't understand them. And so as a result, you know, let them run, let them do whatever, don't take it personally, don't get too upset about it, but understand that you're dealing with someone that this is a problem for them. You know, it's an emotional issue that they don't really necessarily completely fathom themselves, possibly. And so as a result, you know, let them have the space, let them come back out of their ball, and, you know, don't chase after them, because, you know, think about what happens if you chase like an animal that's already on the defensive. You know, it just gets more defensive until it becomes aggressive, and that's where stuff really breaks down and it starts to hurt. Yeah. And then, you know, if the bottom line, other than the communicating and kind of working into these things and understanding your partner and getting them to understand you and all that kind of thing, the bottom line is that if you're someone that needs a lot of emotional connectivity, if you're someone that needs an awful lot of direct intimacy in a relationship, then you may have a partner who is it's possibly one of the most difficult things in the world for them to give you. And so either work through it, or potentially you need to find either other ways around it, or possibly even just realize that as much as you care for that person, as much as they may care for you, that there is an incompatibility there just based on emotional needs. And you know, that's a sad thing when it happens, but unfortunately, to live a kind of like a more happier, fulfilled life, sometimes it's necessary to take not just the step away to give them space and all the rest of it, but, you know, to move away more substantially and detach yourselves so that you can seek the happiness that you want, as much as kind of they can then look for the kind of comfort that they want. You know, it's a tough thing to suggest, but it's one of those things that's there, unfortunately. But either way, guys, let me know what you guys think. You know, people who are afraid of intimacy, you know, what have your experiences been? People who have dated people who are afraid of intimacy, or been around friends like myself more so than anything else. You know, it's, what are your experiences? You know, how have things panned out for you? Is there any other advice that you would give people? Otherwise, thank you very much for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the video tomorrow. Take care. Thank you very much for watching, guys. If you found this at all interesting or useful, then please drop us a like, share this video, and subscribe for more. And I'll see you in the video tomorrow. Take care.